The prizes to the 8 winners of the Princess of Asturias Awards. The Princess of Asturias Foundation convenes the Princess of Asturias Awards, which are presented at an academic ceremony held each year in Oviedo, capital of the Principality of Asturias. The foundation's aims are to contribute to extolling and promoting those scientific, cultural, and humanistic values that form part of the universal heritage of humanity, and to consolidate the existing links between the Principality of Asturias and the title traditionally held by the heirs to the Crown of Spain. The annual Princess of Asturias Awards were established in 1981 as the Prince of Asturias Awards. Leonor, Princess of Asturias, gave a speech.
Los jóvenes somos conscientes de que la situación actual no es fácil, de que el mundo ha cambiado y sigue cambiando, y de que la mejor manera de progresar pasa por mantener el entusiasmo por conocer, equiparnos con responsabilidad y capacidad de esfuerzo y aprender de los que saben, de quienes hacen lo suyo de manera impecable, a menudo en silencio. Por eso, en días como hoy, escuchar, admirar y reconocer la excelencia de nuestros premiados nos hace sentir que las cosas siempre pueden cambiar para bien. Muchas gracias.
King Felipe VI also gave a speech.
Queridas Leonor y Sofía, cada vez sois más conscientes del papel que desempeñan nuestros premiados. Como nos ha dicho antes Leonor, os importa su causa y lo que han logrado, y sabéis que simbolizan el mejor espíritu, que son un verdadero estímulo para todos. A vosotras y a todos los jóvenes.
After a performance by Carmen Linares and Maria Pages, the Princess of Asturias presented the prizes to award scientific, technical, cultural, social, and humanitarian work. The awards went to Carmen Linares and Maria Pages, Princess of Asturias Award for the Arts. Juan Mayorga, Princess of Asturias Award for Literature. Shigeru Ban, Princess of Asturias Award for Concord.
El acto de entrega de los premios Princesa Asturias 2022 ha terminado y por tanto quedan convocados los premios Princesa Asturias 2023. Muchas gracias.
For the awards ceremony, Queen Letizia opted for Carolina Herrera, embellished chiffon-paneled gazer midi dress. The Princess of Asturias wore Michael Kors, palm-sequined mini dress. Infanta Sofia opted for a sequined mini dress in blue. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more videos.
Welcome to Jaisalmer.
มาสเก็ตต่อ
จิบเบียร์บนหลังอู่เพื่อน
โอ้โอ้โอ้โอ้โอ้ไม่ก็
ๆนี่คือบริเวณที่เรานอนเมื่อคืนนะ
เงียงมาก Thank you. Hello. This one. Wait here.
Yeah, you wait here.
Okay.
And bus is coming after this bus.
Okay. Thank you.
ตอนนี้ผมมาอยู่ที่บริเวณขึ้นรถบัสนอนครับผมเพราะว่าวันนี้ตอน20:30นะครับผมจะย้ายเมืองไปที่เมืองใจเสมอซึ่งเป็นเมืองที่อยู่ทางที่ตะวันตกสุดของแคว้นราชสถานนะเพื่อนๆแล้วก็เป็นเมืองที่มีอีกหนึ่งกิจกรรมที่ผมอยากทำมากๆในการมาอินเดียครั้งนี้นะฮะก็เลยคิดว่าจะต้องไปทำให้สำเร็จก็เดี๋ยวยังไม่บอกนะขออุบไว้ก่อนว่ามันคือกิจกรรมอะไรฮะ
Jai Sam.
รถนอนอันเนี้ยดีกว่าครั้งแรกที่เราใหม่นะว่ามีเป็นกระจกแบบนี้กั้นเนี่ยเพื่อน
อย่างน้อยมากคือ privacy สุดมีกระจกกั้นแบบนี้ด้วย แต่คิดว่าอันตรายนะแบบเนี้ยถ้าเกิดอุบัติเหตุเนี่ยหนีออกอะไรไม่ทันนะเนี่ย
ก็เดี๋ยวหลังจากนี้เราจะนั่งยาวๆไปประมาณ11 ชั่วโมงครับไปถึงที่นั่นใจสมิลเนี่ยก็น่าจะประมาณ6 โมงไม่ก็7 โมงเช้านะก็เดี๋ยวไว้ไปเจอกันที่นั่นเลยแล้วกันนะครับผม
と奥に歩いていく人たち。左右に2つの流れができています。実はここ、イテウォンのメイン通りから流れ込む人と、駅の出入り口からの人の流れが合流するポイントになっていたのです。さらに、両側にはホテルの壁と飲食店などがあり、逃げ場がなくなったことで被害が拡大した可能性があります。当日イテウォンに集まっていた人は10万人とも言われます。人が密集し、韓国メディアは立ったまま意識を失った人もいたとする目撃証言を報じています。今回の事故をめぐっては行政の対応が問題視され始めています。
例年と比べ懸念するほど多くの人が集まっていたわけではありませんでした。警察や消防を事前に投入することで解決できた問題ではありません。
しかし韓国メディアからは雑踏をめぐる安全対策が不十分だったとの批判が相次いでいます。今後行政側が事前に問題を予見し対応できなかったのか問われることになります。
韓国ソウルの群衆事故で亡くなった18歳の小槌杏さんの遺族が取材に応じ、可愛い子だったので胸が張り裂けそうなどと語りました。
何も言葉もないんだけど、ただ悲しいだけなんで、当たり前の可愛い子だったんで、胸が張り裂けそうな感じですよ。
小槌杏さんは韓国ソウルの繁華街イテウォンで起きた群衆事故で亡くなりました。小槌さんの祖父によりますと、今年8月末に韓国語を勉強するため韓国に留学したといいます。
送り出したのは本当に頑張ってねって送り出して、まさかこんなことになるなんて思ってもいなかったね。頑張ってやっていうことですよ。あとは食べ物がなんか寿司が食べたいなとかそんな感じでした。
小槌さんの祖父はまさかこんなことになるとはと落胆した様子で話していました。
Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. Our nation has gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resource and support they needed. And we began, really before the month of February was out, to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to
have to
add,
weigh
but
in
if,
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh in.
speaking.
Yeah, you
So
can have
I
15 more
wanna-
seconds, and then we'll give the Vice President
Thank
a
you.
chance to
So I
respond.
want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to respond.
You know, there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made.
I'm referring
The
to
reality,
you, the
if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. Now, that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us if we
President
did
Pence.
everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice President
Now, one
Pence.
life lost is
Thank
too
you.
many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve credit for the sacrifices.
This channel is part of the History Hit network.
If a royal dynasty ever had a perfect foundation for its future, it was in the family of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Through divorce and Diana's tragic death, only the three princes remain. Diana's brave sons have inherited their mother's mantle, along with her popularity. Both boys now receive the rapturous welcome of her heyday. Sadly, William and Harry now face their destiny without their mother's guidance. Spring 1998, a visit to Canada and a time to laugh again. This was the first appearance of the Wales trio. They had found light after the awful darkness of Diana's death. It was a time for relaxation as they skied the Canadian Rocky Mountains. Charles & Sons were the latest family firm. William, who once hated photo calls, now bantered with reporters. At Balmoral in August 1997, on another photo call, just prior to their mother's death, the differences between the two boys' personalities were emerging. Harry was the more impulsive, William already a cautious young man. The living image of his mother, he faces a lifetime of duty.
For William, whatever happens to the monarchy, life is always going to be like it is for his mother. Hounded, harassed, pursued, privately as well as publicly. His misfortune as well as his good fortune being that he looks rather like her, and he's her legacy made flesh.
William was already on the threshold of manhood, but Diana's death has brought out qualities of leadership and responsibility in him.
He has become a very strong young man. He was always strong, much stronger than his father, who is rather weak and who tends to blame other people for things that go wrong in his life. William was strong of mind when he was a boy, perhaps even a bit willful. Since his mother died, and particularly with Harry to look after, to oversee, he's assumed an importance which he wears very well. I mean, he happens to be, tall, he's a good-looking chap, very bright, But he changed in becoming a more independent boy, in taking control, in a sense, of the situation. And he was crucial, of course, to Harry's stability.
Shortly after Diana's death, Charles took Prince Harry to South Africa. In Johannesburg, they attended a Spice Girls concert. Harry relished the attention they gave him. It was a time to laugh and smile again, and to let his father join in the fun. South Africa was a long way from Britain in climate and culture. The trip was an opportunity for father and son to relax in a different atmosphere. The tour helped Harry create a geographical and emotional distance from the traumatic events since his mother's death.
He's become far more reflective. There are long periods, I understand, where he is very sort of contemplative in a way that he wasn't before. Well, he's only a young boy. I think all of us who have families and maybe have lost someone close can understand what may be going through thoughts, disappointments. He must have periods of unhappiness, but he is quieter and more contemplative than he was before she died.
Like William, Harry can never forget the good times they had with their mother. She introduced them to new people, exciting places, and fresh adventures. A visit to watch a Welsh rugby match, and a chance to drive an army tank in Germany were part of Harry's upbringing. She never wanted second born to mean second best.
In a conversation I had with the princess not long before she died in Kensington Palace, she did bring up the question of her concerns for Harry, in that William would always be the one, the centre stage one who was going to be king. She was worried, for instance, rather touchingly, I thought, that William would get all the girls. All the girls would go for Wills, and poor Harry, who's only a couple of years younger, would be left out. And so she was already kind of taking steps to try and make sure that they were treated equally, even though in royal standing terms, William would always be number one.
Although she would have loved a daughter, Diana threw herself enthusiastically into the role of mother of two lively boys. She provided them with the thrills and spills that other children enjoyed. This was nothing like Charles's childhood. They raced each other in Colorado in July 1995 and shot down the slides at Thorpe Park another year. Distant summers of their past with their memories of a gentle and affectionate mother will always be in their hearts. But Diana was accused of upstaging her estranged husband and of spoiling her sons with too many lavish foreign holidays.
In a way, perhaps she spoiled them with treats. I don't think you can spoil children with too much love and attention. I think that's a myth. But I found that she didn't spoil them in terms of being a sensible mother. She was very good at nagging them about their manners. And as a result, they're both beautifully mannered boys.
William will be the next Prince of Wales, and Diana knew she had to prepare him for the role. In March 1990, St. David's Day, she took him to Wales to meet people from the Principality. He was only 7 years old. As a mother, Diana was very particular about certain things.
Diana was fanatically tidy, and so she was always reminding them to pick up things. That's the sort of things that mothers do. I mean, that's normal. To have somebody come along and nag you, I think is keeping you in touch with reality. You know, life is not easy, and you have to learn to look after yourself, and I think she gave a lot of that. She was a very well-balanced mother in that sense.
Diana got involved in many humanitarian causes. In 1991, accompanied by her friend Baroness Margaret Jay, she not only challenged prejudiced views about AIDS, but broke the mold of traditional royal speeches.
Publicity about HIV seems to veer between sex and death horror stories at one extreme to complacency at the other. But behind this confused picture lies the reality of a growing worldwide affliction and untold private suffering. HIV does not make people dangerous to know. So you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it.
In one handshake, Diana dispelled the myth that touching transfers the virus. She made many visits to AIDS centres such as this hospice, with its emphasis on living. Patients welcomed her. On several private occasions, Diana took her sons along with her.
Harry was only 9 years old when he visited Adrian Moore Jackson, who was dying of AIDS. He and William went to his flat to see him. This could never have happened in previous generations. They stayed, talked, and they learned from this. They were being shown things, they were being told things, they were being introduced to people. They were sitting on the beds of patients, playing little games with them. And they were being with AIDS patients and others. And the wonderful legacy that Diana led. And if this drawbridge between the 20th century and the millennium was her, through the children.
Diana also visited hostels for the homeless, such as Centrepoint in London, and talked to the occupants about their problems. She wanted William and Harry to have a social conscience and not lose sight of real life outside palace walls. They visited Centrepoint with her, and William took an early interest in her work for the underprivileged.
She was concerned that they weren't going to grow up spoiled or sort of too much within that tradition. And she used to love taking them to see, the homeless and wear the jeans and just, go down to brass tacks. I mean, she was terribly concerned that they should see that side of life.
She
Las Fuerzas Armadas y la Guardia Civil sois hoy reflejo de una sociedad moderna, capaz y solidaria, que además sabe reconocer y agradecer siempre vuestro compromiso con el interés general de nuestra nación. Un compromiso que demostráis con vuestra profesionalidad, sentido del deber y del honor, que acreditáis con vuestra lealtad y vuestra constante y generosa entrega al servicio del pueblo español, un compromiso, en fin, con España y con nuestra Constitución. Que esta legislatura sea provechosa para todos los ciudadanos y los intereses generales de España, que sirva también para recuperar y fortalecer la confianza de los ciudadanos en sus instituciones. España no puede ser de unos contra otros. España debe ser de todos y para todos. Así lo ha querido la sociedad española desde hace más de 40 años. así lo sigue queriendo y, sobre todo, así lo merece. La mémoire est un acte de respect, un exercice de justice et de dignité, une exigence morale. La mémoire est indispensable pour combattre le terrorisme, car le souvenir de ce qui a eu lieu constitue l'un des plus puissants catalyseurs pour unir nos forces.
Which Disney princess is Kate?
قدم صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم نائب رئيس الدولة رئيس مجلس الوزراء حاكم دبي رعاه الله وصاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد آل نهيان ولي عهد أبو ظبي نائب القائد الأعلى للقوات المسلحة على رأس وفد الدولة الذي ضم أصحاب السمو أعضاء المجلس الأعلى حكام الإمارات خالص التعازي وصادق المواساة إلى صاحب السمو الشيخ تميم بن حمد آل ثاني أمير دولة قطر الشقيقة وصاحب السمو الأمير الوالد الشيخ حمد بن خليفة آل ثاني بوفاة الشيخ خليفة بن حمد آل ثاني رحمه الله. ونقل صاحب السمو نائب رئيس الدولة تعازي صاحب السمو الشيخ خليفة بن زايد آل نهيان رئيس الدولة حفظه الله إلى صاحب السمو الشيخ تميم بن حمد آل ثاني وصاحب السمو الأمير الوالد الشيخ حمد بن خليفة آل ثاني بوفاة الشيخ خليفة بن حمد آل ثاني رحمه الله. وإلى جانب سموهما قدم التعازي في قصر الوجبة بالدوحة صاحب السمو الشيخ حميد بن راشد النعيمي عضو المجلس الأعلى حاكم عجمان وصاحب السمو الشيخ حمد بن محمد الشرقي عضو المجلس الأعلى حاكم الفجيرة وصاحب السمو الشيخ سعود بن راشد المعلى عضو المجلس الأعلى حاكم أم القوين وصاحب السمو الشيخ سعود بن صقر القاسمي عضو المجلس الأعلى حاكم رأس الخيمة وسمو الشيخ حمدان بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم ولي عهد دبي وسمو الشيخ حمدان بن راشد آل مكتوم نائب حاكم دبي وزير المالية والفريق سمو الشيخ سيف بن زايد آل نهيان نائب رئيس مجلس الوزراء وزير الداخلية وسمو الشيخ طحنون بن زايد آل نهيان مستشار الأمن الوطني وسمو الشيخ منصور بن زايد آل نهيان نائب رئيس مجلس الوزراء وزير شؤون الرئاسة وسمو الشيخ الدكتور سلطان بن خليفة آل نهيان مستشار صاحب السمو رئيس الدولة وسمو الشيخ أحمد بن سعيد آل مكتوم رئيس هيئة دبي للطيران الرئيس الأعلى لمجموعة طيران الإمارات وسمو الشيخ ذياب بن محمد بن زايد آل نهيان وعدد من الشيوخ وكبار المسؤولين في الدولة. كما قدم صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم وصاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد آل نهيان وأصحاب السمو الحكام التعازي والمواساة إلى أنجال الفقيد وإلى أسرة آل ثاني الكرام، داعين الله العلي القدير أن يتغمد الفقيد الراحل بواسع رحمته ويسكنه فسيح جناته، ويلهم الأسرة الحاكمة الكريمة الصبر والسلوان، مستذكرين مآثر ومناقب الفقيد وجهوده رحمه الله في خدمة وطنه وإسهاماته مع إخوانه أصحاب الجلالة والسمو في تأسيس مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية وتعزيز مسيرته المباركة. وأعرب صاحب السمو الشيخ تميم بن حمد آل ثاني وصاحب السمو الأمير الوالد الشيخ حمد بن خليفة آل ثاني عن خالص الشكر والتقدير لصاحب السمو الشيخ خليفة بن زايد آل نهيان رئيس الدولة، وصاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم، وصاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد آل نهيان، وأصحاب السمو الحكام على المشاعر الأخوية الصادقة التي تعكس عمق العلاقات الأخوية الوطيدة التي تربط البلدين والشعبين الشقيقين، سائلين المولى عز وجل أن يحفظ دولة الإمارات ويمتع حكامها بموفور الصحة.
行動制限がない今年は来店客の増加を見越し、ハロウィン関連グッズの売り場面積を3年前と同じ程度に広げた結果、売り上げは去年のおよそ 1.3 倍になったといいます。
香りプリントみたいな香り。
Seit jeher haben die Menschen
Do you really think that another transparently manipulated... Oh, it's a tiara! A tiara! I have a tiara!
Thank you so much, Amy Farrah Fowler. I feel like she's all our inner spirit animal when it comes to tiaras. And today is the inaugural episode of Tiara Tuesday. I'm so glad you are here. So every Tuesday, we will be doing a video highlighting one of the tiaras from the various royal households and other jewelry as well. And for this inaugural episode, I just thought it would be a good idea to kind of give us a good baseline of the different styles, a bit of history, kind of a great foundation. I call this Tiara 101. So if you love royal fashion, jewelry, clothing, shoes, all those sorts of things, and especially tiaras, feel free to subscribe. I would love to have you back to Royal Fashion News. I just launched this channel and I'm so excited to share all of my love for everything royal fashion. So guys, without further ado, let's get started. So when it comes to tiaras, they just have a long storied history. And although they did kind of disappear from the history books for a little bit, they did come back in vogue and really is something I think today that still just stands as a testament to royalty and to a certain level of regalness. So in his book, Tiaras Past and Present, author Jeffrey Munn says that just as humankind has found the very transient of nature's beauty so haunting, the timelessness and permanence of precious metals and stones have had the same effect, as they seem to defy the excorability of natural decay. He also says, in the evolution of its design, the tiara tells its own social and cultural history. Unlike the dinosaur, it
be looking out for this ballot trafficking or harvesting, which is illegal in the state?
Well, I think that, you know, if this journalist or reporter, or I don't know what outlet it was with, said that they're doing nothing wrong, then they're doing nothing wrong. They're standing on public property taking photos. That is legal. And I really wish that they will, hopefully they will, if people call in with any incident of vote problems, that I hope they're going to investigate them. I would count on them investigating them, so I'm counting on that. George.
Two things. One, congratulations on the 11-point spread, but we're still the underdog as I see what's happening around me.
I got to keep fighting like we're the underdog, because you know who I'm fighting against? The press. Yes. The disgusting propagandists who are trying to sway an election. You're trying to sway an election. This is going to be one of the darkest times in modern day journalism. It really is, guys. I think someday you're going to wake up to the fact of what you were up to. Back to you, George.
Also, I want to thank them because of your press releases that you're doing right now, man. And I have no ties to your campaign whatsoever. I'm a media person just like everybody else. And I like to make a public announcement. My feed went up to 790,000 views. 700, man. 7. And 75,000 people comments are saying to you, keep doing what you're doing. We're not listening to any other news.
That's right.
And that's what I wanted to give you this feedback as of this morning. I can reply to everyone.
I'm glad that people are awake. They're realizing this is how you get the information. We're streaming this, so the world is watching this. The people in America are watching this. And thank you for mentioning you had a lot of views. Is that what you're saying? Okay. And these guys don't have the viewers. And it's sad. I used to work at 12 News many years ago. We were #1. We had huge numbers. Now they have newscasts where it gets a little asterisk. And when you look at the ratings and you get an asterisk, that means no one's watching. They actually have newscasts on 12 News and some of the others with an asterisk. It means no one's watching, no detectable life watching. Their 10 o'clock newscast gets, on a good day, 2,000 viewers. These are the overnight ratings. This is a fact. I'm not picking on 12 News because all of the stations are just, the ratings are in the toilet. And they have access to about 7 million viewers. And you're not doing a good job, guys, if you're getting an asterisk, which means no one's watching, or you're getting 2,000 viewers out of 7 million. You're not doing a good job. Anybody over here have a question? Your name and who are you with? Cameron with Red State.
My question is in regards to that poll. So it shows
a little louder, Cameron.
So it's a little bit, it's in regards to the poll that was taken the other day. So it does show that you were up by 11 points, but it does show Blake Masters back down by 2. It's kind of within the margin of error. Why do you think that there's a disparity? Do you guys have any more campaign events planned?
We're doing a lot of events. Abe is an amazing candidate. I'm so looking forward to working with Abe as our next Attorney General. Blake is going to be an amazing U.S. Senator. And we're going to get Mark Fincham. He's going to win. He'll be Secretary of State. We want Tom Horne to win. We want Republicans up and down that ballot for the sanity and safety of our state. And we're working together as a team. Have you seen Katie Hobbs with anybody? Nobody wants to be seen with her. She's radioactive. She's radioactive. Even the national Democrats are saying she has the worst run campaign they've ever seen. She doesn't debate. They said Fetterman's a better candidate. They said Fetterman candidate. That's why she pulled this stunt, because of these poll numbers, and she knew that you guys would fall for it. This is defamatory. Would you allow somebody to make a statement like that against a prominent business leader in the community and run with it? You wouldn't do that. You would pause, you'd probably talk to your legal department, and you'd slow down and try to get your facts straight. But you didn't do that last night, and you're trying to influence the election. Any other questions? And who are you with?
Amy Flora with Washington Examiner. You spent a lot of time calling out the fake news, and even saying you left the news industry because you felt yourself a real journalist. Who do you consider a real journalist?
I've talked about this before. I think John Solomon with Just the News is amazing. Cheryl Atkinson is amazing. I think the Epic Times does great work. And there's a few others. Thankfully, we have more independent people who've walked away and said, I'm still a journalist at heart. I'm still a journalist at heart. I'm going a different direction. But some journalists have said, I'm done with this. I'm walking away so I can maintain my dignity. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more and more independent journalists do the right thing and live to be true journalists. Any other questions? Your name?
Michael Raimondi with AZ Family. In Katie Hobbs' last statement, she said her refusal to contend threats are stoking chaos here in Arizona. Do you feel any sort of responsibility for that?
No.
And do you condemn the threats made against her in her office?
I believe in personal responsibility. You all heard of that? We don't have a lot of that. Personal responsibility. Somebody threatens someone, that's their responsibility. My responsibility is to work hard as a candidate and then work really hard as a governor to help Arizona. I'm in this for the right reasons. And unfortunately, you guys don't get that. And you're jumping at everything she says. It's ridiculous. If you make a threat, you need to live it. I've had many threats. I don't go to the media with them. I get threatening letters, terrible letters. They would make you blush. They would make you angry. I throw them in the garbage can. My children have been followed and had pictures taken of them. My daughter gets threatening phone calls. We've had our tires slashed. We've had 4-inch screws drilled into our tires so that our tires would blow out on the road after events. We're living in dangerous times. And we got to have someone who is courageous to help run this state. And it is not Katie Hobbs. It is not Katie Hobbs. I don't go to you guys with everything that goes wrong. We keep it quiet. And we're going to get through this, and we're going to win, and we're going to help Arizona. Next question. Is there any more? Sir, who are you and who are you with?
I'm Neil Jones. I'm with the Arizona Sun-Times.
Hey, Neil.
Would you like to say anything to maybe someone college age who's thinking about becoming a journalist one day? What can they do to set themselves on
That's
the
a
right
great
path?
question. That's a great question. Really resist if you're in journalism school. You don't need to be in journalism school to be a journalist, as you probably know. You just need to have some common sense, have a love for getting to the bottom of stories, learn how to investigate, learn how to dig for evidence, but resist being an activist. Take your opinions, and we all have opinions. Not a single one of us is completely unbiased. We got it in there somewhere. Bury it deep down when you're covering a story. If you know your bias is in favor of someone like Katie Hobbs, which many of you I'm sure are in favor of her, you got to check that. You got to bring it back towards the middle. And knowing what your bias is, bring it back the other way. And just really pursue the truth. That's my suggestion. I hope some more honest young journalists decide to get into the field. I'm really inspired by a lot of the young conservatives coming up because they're really awake to some of the nonsense that's been fed to them. And I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of great young journalists coming up. Thank you for that question. Anybody else? You already had one? Ma'am, who are you and who are you with?
I'm Mai from NHK Japan.
You're from Japan?
Yes.
Are you covering this race?
Yes.
Wow.
I met you last night, Rory, and I asked you a question about former President Mr. Trump, and I have two questions. And first,
well, since you came all the way from Japan, I'll let you ask two questions. How's that?
And how do you feel you are known as Mr. Trump's endorsed candidate? This is my first question. And the second question is how do you think makes you different from him?
Well, the first question was, how do I know he endorsed me?
How do you feel you are known as Mr. Trump's endorsed candidate?
I'm known as his endorsed candidate, yes.
How are you different than him?
And how am I different from President Trump? Well, I mean, I have a different background. I was born in Iowa, raised in a large family, youngest of 9. I grew up in a much different background. He, of course, came from New York and came from a different kind of family, real estate family. But we do have a lot in common, that we both love our country. We're patriotic, just like the people behind me. We all love our country. Yes. We all have that patriotism in us, that tingle you get when you hear the national anthem. That's